The station drifted in silence. Kepler's Rest, a name once spoken with warmth and pride among the Volani, now trembled with fear. It hung on the edge of the Kelnar Nebula, a peaceful trade outpost where merchants gathered, families lived, and travelers rested between the long journeys through the stars. But peace had ended 3 hours ago. 50 warships surrounded the station, now Kororak vessels, dark angular things that looked like they had been carved from hatred itself. Their hulls were scarred from 1,000 raids. Their weapons glowed red in the void. The Korak Empire did not negotiate. They did not trade. They came, they took, they enslaved. Entire colonies had vanished under their shadow. Worlds had burned. The galaxy knew their name, and the galaxy feared it. Inside Kepler's Rest, Station Commander Velnez stood frozen at his console. His hands, thin, delicate, covered in the pale blue fur of his people, hovered over the controls. Around him, his crew waited, silent, terrified. Commander, his communications officer, whispered, "They are hailing us again." Velnez closed his eyes. He knew what they would say. The same thing they always said. Put them through. The screen flickered. A face appeared. Komurak, thick-skinned, eyes like black stones, teeth filed to points. The raider captain smiled, and it was a smile that had seen 1,000 sereners. "Vani," the captain said, voice like gravel scraped over bone. "You have 1 hour. Open your docks. Surrender your people. We will take what we need. Resist, and we will take everything." Felice felt his chest tighten. He thought of the family sheltering in the lower decks, the children, the elders. 8,000 souls on this station, and he could protect none of them. We are a civilian station," he said, and hated how weak his voice sounded. "We have no weapons, no military presence. Please." The Kora captain laughed. It was a sound without mercy. "That is why we chose you." The screen went dark. Velnez turned to his crew. Faces stared back at him, waiting, hoping. But he had no hope to give. "Send a distress call," he said quietly. "Broadcast it on all emergency channels. Send it to the Galactic Council to anyone who will listen." His communications officer hesitated. "Commander, the Council fleets are weeks away. No one will reach us in time." "I know. Then why?" "Because we have to try." The officer nodded slowly. His fingers moved across the console. A signal went out. A pulse of light and sound carrying the weight of desperation across the stars. Distress call. Kepler's Rest station under attack by Kororik. Raiding Force 50. Warships. Civilian population endangered. Request immediate assistance coordinates attached. The message traveled through hyperspace relays, through communication networks that spanned entire sectors. It reached the Galactic Council headquarters on Vareth Prime, where officials read it, sighed, and filed it with the others. Too far, too late. Another tragedy in a galaxy that had seen too many. It reached the Jarn Confederacy, who had their own borders to defend and could spare no ships. It reached the Mercari Union, who considered the risk and declined. The message traveled for an hour, and no one answered. Veln sat in his command chair and watched the timer count down. 53 minutes left. The Korak ships had moved closer. Soon they would begin boarding. Soon as people would be dragged away in chains, sold on distant worlds, scattered like dust. He thought about his daughter. She was only 9. She was hiding somewhere below with her mother, probably crying, probably wondering why her father couldn't save her. He had no answer for her. The console beeped. Velnez looked up. His communications officer stared at the screen, eyes wide. "Commander, we have a response." Velnez felt his heart stop. "Who?" "Unknown signature. Not in our database. The signal is strange. Identifying now." The officer's hands moved faster. Then he went still. It's from a species called humanity. United Earth Systems Navy." Veln had never heard that name before. Human. Earth. It meant nothing to him. "What do they say?" The officer read the message aloud, and his voice cracked with something that might have been hope. Message received. "Help is coming. Hold position. Estimated arrival 40 minutes. Signed, Admiral Sarah Chen, USN Training Fleet Gamma 7 40 minutes." Velnez stared at the words. Then he stood. His legs shook, but he stood. Broadcast a response, he said. Tell them we are holding. The Korak did not know yet. They circled the station like predators around wounded prey, counting down the minutes until they could feed. But somewhere in the black, something was coming. Something they had not expected. Something the galaxy had never seen before. And in 40 minutes, everything would change. The arrival. The Korak captain sat in his command throne and smiled. 38 minutes had passed since the ultimatum. The Volani station hung before him like fruit, ready to be plucked. His fleet had tightened the noose. Boarding parties were prepared. Slave collars were charged and waiting. This would be easy. It was always easy with the soft creatures, gentle, born to serve stronger species. The galaxy had learned long ago not to resist the Korak. Those who did burn. Captain, his sensor officer called out. Strange readings on the edge of the system. The captain waved a clawed hand dismissively. Council patrol? No, sir. The signature is unknown. Multiple contacts, large displacement signatures. They are space tore open. Not metaphorically, not gently. Space ripped like fabric under a blade, and through the wound came light, blue, white, and blazing as hyperspace gates opened one after another in rapid succession. And through them came ships, human ships. The Korak captain stood from his throne, eyes widening. How many? Counting. Sir, I count 200 contacts. 200 ships, Frigo class and above. They are captain. They are forming battle formation. Weapons charging. They are moving. 200. The number hung in the air like a curse. The Korak Empire had 50 ships here. 50 of their best raiders. And now they were outnumbered 4-1 by a species the captain had never even heard of. What are they? He growled, identifying now. Designation, United Earth Systems Navy. Species classification human. Origin, Sol System Orion Arm. Status in Galactic Registry. New membership, registered only 3 years ago. 3 years. Newcomers. Children playing at war. The captain's confidence returned. New species always looked impressive at first. Big ships, bright lights. But they had no experience, no true understanding of combat. The Korak had ruled through violence for centuries. They would not be frightened by numbers alone. Open a channel to them, he said. Let us see what these humans want. On the bridge of the Yusin Valiant Dawn, Admiral Sarah Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back. Around her, holographic displays showed the battlefield in perfect clarity. 50 Korak vessels surrounding Kepler's Rest. Her own fleet. 200 ships arranged in a sphere formation. Weapons locked, shields raised, training fleet Gamma 7. That was what command had called them. New crews, new captains, testing maneuvers, running drills far from Earth, while the main battle fleets protected Sol and humanity's colonies. But every ship in this fleet was fully armed. Every crew had trained for this. And every single officer on every bridge had read the reports about the Korak Empire. About the raids, the slavery, the atrocities. They had been the closest fleet to respond. 40 minutes at maximum burned through hyperspace. They had arrived with 2 minutes to spare. Admiral, her communications officer said, the Karasir hailing us. Put them through. The screen lit up. The Karakik captain appeared. Scarred face, filed teeth, eyes like dead stars. He looked at Chen with something between amusement and contempt. Human, he said slowly, tasting the word. You are far from home. This does not concern you. Leave now, and we will forget you were here. Chen's expression didn't change. She had practiced this look in a mirror once, years ago, when she was a lieutenant. The look that said, I am stone. I am steel. I do not yield. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Systems Navy, she said, voice calm and cold. You are in violation of Galactic Council protocols regarding attacks on civilian stations. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and withdraw from this system. The Korak captain blinked. Then he laughed, a deep rasping sound. You are new to the stars, human. You do not understand how things work. We are Karak. We take what we wish. We have done so for 500 years. You have been in space for what? 10? 20? You think your shiny ships frighten me? Chen's jaw tightened. 28 seconds. We are 50 warships battle-tested. We have burned worlds. You are children playing soldier. He leaned forward. Go home, human. Before we add your species to our slave markets. Chen turned to her weapons officer. Time. 20 seconds, Admiral. She looked back at the screen. At the Korak, Captain, at the arrogance in his eyes. You're right, she said softly. We are new to the stars. We've only been out here a few years, and maybe we don't understand how things work in your galaxy. She took one step closer to the screen. But we understand how things work on Earth. And on Earth, when someone calls for help, we answer. She gestured sharply. All ships, battle formation Delta 7, target enemy vessels, prepare to engage. The Korak captain's smile vanished. You would not dare. 12 seconds, Chen said. Withdraw now, or we will remove you. For the first time, doubt flickered in the captain's eyes. He looked at his sensors. 200 human ships arranged in perfect formation, weapons glowing like stars about to go nova. You are bluffing, he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Chen's eyes were ice. 5 seconds. The corps captain snarled. All ships, open fire on the human fleet. Destroy them. Chen didn't flinch. Weapons free. Engage. And the galaxy learned what humanity had brought to the stars. Fire. Not the slow, careful exchanges of traditional fleet combat. Not the cautious positioning and shield management. Violence. The human ships moved like they had been choreographed, like dancers who had practiced this routine 1,000 times. Frigates broke formation and accelerated, their engines burning blue-white as they closed distance, faster than the Korak thought possible. Destroyers unleashed railgun volleys that crossed the void in seconds. Magnetically accelerated tungsten rounds punching through Korak shields like they were paper. The cruisers, massive, armored, beautiful, fired missile swarms that filled the space between fleets with light and death. Point defense lasers from the human ships created a web of protection, intercepting every Korak torpedo before it could reach its target. And above it all, the human dreadnoughts, 5 of them, each one a mobile fortress, fired their main batteries. Particle beams that could cut a ship in half. Plasma cannons that turned armor into molten slag. The Korak had expected a fight. They got an execution. Within 90 seconds, 8 Korak ships were dead. Holes cracked. Engines dark. Crews screaming into the void. The Korak captain stared at his screens in horror. Impossible. They are coordinating. How are they coordinating like this? His sensor officer's voice was shaking. Sir, their tactical network as it is, beyond anything I have seen. Every ship is linked. They are fighting as one. Break formation, scatter. We outnumber. Sir, we do not outnumber them. We are 50. They are 200. We are. The ship rocked as a human railgun round tore through the aft shields. Alarms shrieked. Systems failed. The captain gripped his throne. All ships, focus fire on their flagship. Kill their admiral and they will. 30 human ships turned as one and accelerated toward his position. 30. His sensors screamed warnings. Targeting locks, dozens of them, hundreds. Every weapon on every ship pointed at him. Evasive maneuvers. He roared. Now, but it was too late. The humans fired. On Kepler's rest, Commander Veln stood at the observation window and watched. His entire crew had joined him. 8,000 Volani pressed against every viewport, every screen, watching the impossible unfold before their eyes. The Korak fleet, the nightmare that had haunted their final hours, was being dismantled ship by ship with precision, with purpose, with a ruthlessness that took Valness's breath away. They are not just fighting, his weapons officer whispered. They are hunting. It was true. The humans did not simply shoot. They moved. They flanked. They isolated targets and destroyed them with overwhelming force before moving to the next. It was not war. It was surgery. And it was beautiful. A Korak battleship tried to run. It broke from the fleet and burned toward the edge of the system, engines screaming. 3 human destroyers pursued it. They matched its speed, overtook it, then crippled its drives with pinpoint strikes and left it drifting. They were not killing everyone. Belns realized that with a jolt, they were disabling, taking prisoners. Forcing surrender, Commander, his communications officer said, voice thick with emotion. "We are receiving a transmission from the human admiral. Put it through." The screen changed. A human face appeared. Female, dark hair pulled back. Eyes that held steel and compassion in equal measure. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Systems Navy, to Kepler's rest station. You are safe now. The hostile force is neutralized. Medical and engineering teams are standing by to assist. Are there casualties?" Velnez tried to speak. His voice failed him. He tried again. We have minor injuries. No fatalities. You came. You actually came." The Admiral's expression softened. "You called for help. We heard you. But how? How did you arrive so fast? How did you bring so many ships? We were running training exercises, 2 systems over. We heard your distress call. We came as fast as we could." She paused. "We're sorry it took 40 minutes. We'll try to be faster next time." Next time. As if this was normal. As if humanity simply did this. Answered calls, saved strangers, fought monsters. "Thank you," Velnez whispered. "Thank you." Chen nodded. "Hold tight, Commander. We're sending shuttles now. Let's get your people patched up." The screen went dark. Veln turned to his crew. They were crying. All of them. Tears of relief and joy and disbelief streaming down blue-furred faces. Outside the window, the last Korarak ship surrendered. One by one, they powered down weapons, shut off engines, waited for human boarding parties to take them into custody. And through it all, the human fleet maintained perfect formation, watchful, ready, protecting the station they had saved. Veln looked at the stars and felt something he had not felt in hours. Hope the message. The interrogation room was small and cold. The Korak captain sat in restraints designed by human engineers, restraints that had been tested, refined, and proven effective on species far stronger than his own. He had tried to break them once, only once. The pain had taught him better. Across the table sat Admiral Chen. No guards, no weapons visible, just her, a data pad, and eyes that had seen him for exactly what he was. 47 ships disabled, she said quietly, reading from the pad. 3 destroyed when they refused to surrender and opened fire on my medical frig. 1,700 Korak personnel taken into custody. 0 human casualties, 0 eye casualties. She looked up. Your slave collars have been confiscated, your weapons dismantled. Your ships will be towed to the nearest Galactic Council security station, and you will face trial for your crimes. The captain said nothing. His pride had shattered somewhere between the 3rd and 4th human volley. He had nothing left but silence and shame. Chen leaned forward. I need you to understand something. This was a training fleet. New crews, new captains. Most of them had never seen real combat before today. The captain's eyes widened slightly. Our actual battle fleets, Chen continued, are protecting Earth and our colonies. Fleets 3 times this size. Crews with decades of experience. Ships designed for total war. She paused. And there are 12 of them. The number hung in the air like a sword. How? The captain finally whispered. How do you have so many ships? You have been in space for what, 3 years? 10 years since first contact, Chen corrected. But we have been building ships for much longer than that. We just didn't know we would need them for this. For what? Chen's expression darkened. We built them to fight each other. Humanity has been at war with itself for thousands of years. We have fought over land, resources, ideology, religion, pride. We have burned our own cities, killed our own people. We are very, very good at violence. She stood and walked to the window. Beyond it, human ships patrolled in perfect formation. Silent, watchful, deadly. But 50 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves. Nuclear war, biological weapons. We came so close to extinction that we could see it waiting for us. And something changed. She turned back to face him. We decided that if we were going to survive, we had to stop fighting each other. We had to unify. We had to build something better. And so you turned your weapons outward, the captain said bitterly. You became conquerors instead. No. Chen's voice was sharp. We became protectors. We kept our weapons because we knew. We knew that the universe was not safe, that there would be others like you. Species who took strength as permission to harm the weak. She sat back down. We did not come to the stars to conquer. We came to explore, to learn, to meet new friends. Her eyes locked onto his. But we brought our warships anyway, just in case we met new enemies. The captain looked away. You should have stayed home. Maybe, Chen said softly. But we didn't. And now the galaxy knows we are here. The news spread like fire through dry grass. Within 6 hours, every major government in the galaxy had received the report. Battle footage, sensor logs, testimony from the Volani, the story of what had happened at Kepler's Rest. In the halls of the Galactic Council, ambassadors gathered in emergency session. Holographic displays showed the human fleet in action, the coordination, the precision, the overwhelming force applied with surgical accuracy. They sent a training fleet. Ambassador Kellis of the Jarn Confederacy said, his voice hollow. A training fleet defeated 50 Korak warships in under 10 minutes. It was 14 minutes, someone corrected. That does not make it better. Counselor Thrask, a Valorian diplomat who had served for 30 years, studied the footage with ancient eyes. They move like a single organism. I have never seen fleet coordination like this. Not from the Korak. Not from us. Not from anyone. How is it possible? Ambassador Kellis demanded. They are new to space travel. They should be stumbling through basic navigation, not executing fleet maneuvers that would take our navies decades to master. Thrask replayed a section of the battle. Human destroyers executing a pincer movement that had trapped an entire Korak squadron. Because they have been fighting each other for millennia, they did not learn war from us. They brought it with them. The chamber fell silent. What does this mean for the council? Someone asked quietly. Thrask looked at the faces around him. Fear, uncertainty, and underneath it all, something that might have been hope. It means, he said slowly, that the balance of power has shifted. The Korak have terrorized the outer systems for centuries because no one could match their aggression. We tried diplomacy, sanctions, patrols. Nothing worked. He gestured to the screen. Humanity tried violence, and it worked in 14 minutes. Are we in danger from them? Ambassador Kellis asked. Thrask considered the question. He thought about the human admiral's face during the brief communication they had intercepted. The way she had spoken to the Volani commander with compassion. The way she had offered medical aid before claiming victory. I do not think so, he said finally. But I believe we should speak with them soon. On Kepler's Rest, the repair work had begun. Human engineering teams had come aboard with equipment and expertise that left the Volani engineers speechless. Hull breaches were patched, power systems restored, medical bays set up in the cargo holds to treat the injured and the traumatized. Commander Velnus walked through his station and watched humans work alongside his people. They were strange beings, these humans. They smiled easily, spoke gently, shared rations with Vani children who stared at them with wide, curious eyes. But Velnus had seen the battle footage. He had watched these same gentle beings destroy a raiding fleet with cold efficiency. The contradiction troubled him. He found Admiral Chen in the station's command center, reviewing structural damage reports with his chief engineer. Admiral, he said, may I speak with you? Chen looked up and nodded. Of course, Commander. Walk with me. They moved through the corridors together. Human crew members nodded respectfully as they passed. Fani civilians watched from doorways, whispering among themselves. You saved us, Velnus said after a long silence. My people owe you a debt we can never repay. You don't owe us anything, Chen replied. You needed help. We were able to give it, that's all. But why? The question burst from Velnus before he could stop it. You had no obligation to us. No treaty, no alliance. We are strangers to you. Why risk your ships and your people for strangers? Chen stopped walking. She looked at him with those steady human eyes. Because someone had to, she said simply. Because you called for help and no one else was coming. Because leaving you to die would have been wrong. She paused. And because we know what it is like to need help and have no one answer. Your people have experienced this. Many times, Chen said quietly. In our history, there were moments when entire populations called for help. Called for someone, anyone, to intervene and stop atrocities. And the world looked away. People did nothing, and millions died. Her voice grew softer. We learned from that. We swore that we would never be the ones who looked away, that if we had the power to help, we would use it. Belns felt tears prick his eyes again. The galaxy is not accustomed to such compassion. Most species help only when there is profit or obligation. Then maybe it is time the galaxy learned a different way. They continued walking ahead. Velnus could see the observation deck where his people had watched the battle. A crowd had gathered there now, not watching the stars, but watching something else. He and Chen approached. The crowd parted respectfully. Through the viewport, they could see the human fleet. 200 ships holding formation around the station, silent guardians in the void. A Vani child, no more than 7 or 8, stood at the front of the crowd. She looked up at Chen with wonder in her eyes. "Are you really going to stay?" the child asked. "Until we are safe." Chen knelt down to the child's level. "We will stay as long as you need us, and then we will make sure that help is always close enough to reach you. You will not be alone again." The child thought about this. Then she stepped forward and hugged the Admiral. Chen, surprised, hesitated for only a moment before returning the embrace. Belnus watched the rest of his people gather closer, watched them look at the human fleet with something that might have been awe, or gratitude, or hope, and he understood that something had changed. Not just for Kepler's rest, not just for the Vani, for the entire galaxy. 3 days later, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn and prepared to return home. The Galactic Council had sent a proper security fleet to take custody of the Korak prisoners and establish a permanent patrol route through this sector. Kepler's rest was fully operational again. "The Volani were safe, Admiral," her communications officer said. "We are receiving a transmission. It is being broadcast across all Council frequencies, multiple languages. They are addressing you." Chen frowned. "Put it through." The screen lit up. Not one face, but dozens. Representatives from species across the galaxy. The Galactic Council, independent systems, trade federations, explorers and merchants and leaders. Counselor Thrask spoke first. "Admiral Chen, we have witnessed what your fleet accomplished at Kepler's Rest. We have read the reports, studied the battle data, and we have a question for humanity." Chen waited. "What do you want?" Thras asked. "You have proven yourselves as warriors. You could demand territory, resources, tribute. The Council would negotiate. What does humanity want from us?" Chen was silent for a long moment. She thought about Earth. Beautiful, scarred, struggling Earth. Finally, unified and reaching for the stars. She thought about the dreams that had driven humanity to build ships and explore the unknown. "We want friends," she said simply. "We want to explore, to learn, to build something better than what came before. We want to trade stories and knowledge and art. We want to see what wonders exist in this galaxy. And if you are threatened," someone asked, "if another species attacks you," Chen's expression hardened, "then we will defend ourselves. And we will defend those who cannot defend themselves. We did not bring weapons to conquer. We brought them to protect. Even if protecting others costs you blood, resources, risk." "Yes, why?" The question came from multiple voices, now confused, disbelieving. "Why would you do this?" Chen thought about the child who had hugged her, about Commander Velnus and his 8,000 civilians who had thought they would die alone, about every call for help that had ever gone unanswered. "Because," she said quietly, "someone has to." The screen showed dozens of faces, and slowly, one by one, they nodded. "Then perhaps," Counselor Thras said, "the galaxy has been waiting for humanity to arrive." The transmission ended. Chen stood on her bridge and looked at her crew. Young officers who had expected a routine training exercise and instead had fought their first real battle. "Set course for home," she ordered. "Let's go back to Earth." "Aye, Admiral." The fleet turned as one. Engines burned blue-white. And slowly the human ships accelerated toward the hyperspace jump point. Behind them, Kepler's Rest grew smaller, but the lights of the station burned bright and steady. Now, safe, protected, alive. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, a story began to spread. A story about a species who had come to the stars, carrying weapons forged in the fires of their own worst mistakes. A species who had learned compassion through suffering. A species who had heard a cry for help from strangers and answered with fire and steel and mercy. A story about humanity. And in the darkest corners of the galaxy, in the places where raiders gathered and slavers planned their next hunt, a new fear took root. Because the galaxy had changed. The predators had always known that the weak would call for help. They had just never expected anyone to answer. But now someone had, and they were not afraid to fight.